Hello, AP Psychology students. So we're going to wrap up operant conditioning today with just 2 slides, but these are some pretty important concepts. So I've already talked about punishment and reinforcement. The basic processes in operant conditioning share some similarities with classical conditioning. The first one here is something we call a discriminative stimulus. This is a cue that signals a reward or a reinforcement might be available. In other words, someone's watching. So a good example of this is for my kids. They will ask my husband pretty regularly for money. They seem to have no trouble doing that. And but they know that they're more likely to get money from him if he's in a good mood. So they don't bother asking him for money if he's not in a good mood. So that's their discriminative stimulus. What kind of mood is their dad in? For you or for somebody else, it might be, is someone watching me do a good job at my work? Am I going to work harder when I'm making my, Blizzard at Dairy Queen or whatever the case may be? Shaping is what we do when we are learning a skill. So let's say you're learning how to play hockey or you're learning how to play piano. What your instructor will do is they will reward or reinforce what we call successive approximations to the desired response. So learning a piano piece, for me, is a good example, and maybe some of you can relate to this, where first you need to learn the dynamics, or the notes, and then you need to learn the notes and the dynamics, and then you need the notes, the dynamics, and the phrasing, and then you need notes, dynamics, phrasing, and memorization. And then you finally get to, the point where you can perform this at a recital. So any kind of skill that you're building, like if it's an athletic skill or an artistic skill, you're going to build upon that and you're going to be reinforced for successive approximations. I have a short video here to show you of B.F. Skinner training a pigeon to turn around.
Now, and I will try to pick out some particular pattern of behavior and make it a more frequent part of the repertoire of the bird. Very fine. This bird has been already conditioned to eat when the magazine sounds and the light flashes. Now we'll just watch its behavior a bit. It's not doing anything in particular, you see, but I'm going to try to get it to do something. Suppose I shape up the behavior of making a complete turn. What I do is simply, as I did then, to wait for some part of that behavior. There's more of it, you see. You can see that the effect is instantaneous. I'm waiting for it to turn counterclockwise now. And then I reinforce that movement. And I wait for a more pronounced movement than that. It's got to be more than that. There we go, all the way around.
Okay, so that is the example of shaping from B.F. Skinner. He did a lot of stuff like that with pigeons. And even when we did the demonstration in class where we were cheering or whatever, we were shaping that individual to do the task that we had selected for them. Discrimination is when a learned behavior is exhibited only in the original learning condition. A good example, I think, of this one, at least based on what I hear around school, is that a lot of children, they're told not to use certain words at home, and so they don't. But when they get to school, they don't have the same consequences, and so they might use different language than they do at school. Generalization is when the learned behavior extends to other situations. So let's say that you have learned that reading your textbook is really effective in history, and you find that you start, doing better on quizzes and exams, and then you're like, well, you know what, I think I'll try that with my other classes, and then you find that that same technique is working for the other classes as well. So your learned behavior has been generalized because it's been reinforced in one subject, history, and then you now use it for another subject, AP Psychology, then you generalize that learned behavior. Extinction is when a cessation of learned behavior. This is when reinforcement ends. Now, a good example of extinction is, let's say that a child is used to getting something by having a tantrum. And then the parent decides, nope, not going to do that anymore, not giving into tantrums. What will actually happen before that tantrum behavior is extinguished is something called an extinction burst. And so the child's tantrum behavior might actually increase as a result of the process of trying to extinguish that learned behavior of having a tantrum. Relearning is the rapid return of extinguished behavior once reinforcement occurs again. So in the example that I just gave, if somebody had extinguished the tantrum behavior in their child, and then they happen to have another tantrum and the parent gives in, they're going to start doing that behavior again. Or maybe it's something different, like let's say you had stopped reading your textbook, but then you're like, hey, you know what, I think I'm going to try that again, and it works and you get a good score on a test, and so you relearn that reading the textbook behavior. And finally, a habit is just when a conditioned behavior continues even without reinforcement. I mean, this is a goal of parents with a lot of things, like if they're teaching their children to pick up after themselves after dinner, bring their dishes to the sink, or whatever the case may be. It becomes a habit when you just do it automatically. Okay. And this can happen for, good things as well as for maybe some unhealthy habits as well. This is called a decision-making grid, and I recommend that you put this in your notes. So basically, we have this here. A reinforcement always increases the frequency of a behavior. It's not always desirable, but this is the chart that I found online. Sometimes we can increase an undesirable behavior, such as a tantrum. Punishment decreases the frequency of a behavior. Then we have in this column positive, a stimulus is applied. This column, a stimulus is removed. Right here, this box, I would call this positive reinforcement, or PR. You are getting something. You're getting praise, you're getting money, you're getting candy. Negative reinforcement, again, call this escape or avoidance conditioning. A negative stimulus, a stimulus you don't want, such as pain, is taken away. And so, like, you take Advil because you get to avoid your headache. You wear your seatbelt so that you can avoid getting in a serious injury in a car accident. On the other hand, for positive punishment, a lot of people get held up on this word positive. It only means that the stimulus is being applied. So if, for example, you get yelled at, that's a stimulus that's being applied to you to have you decrease a behavior. Or if you get criticized, negative punishment, same thing as stimulus is removed. In this case, it's going to be something you want. So let's say your freedom. Let's say you get grounded. That's an example of negative punishment. Or you get your ability to drive taken away. Or you get suspended from school. Those are all examples of negative punishment. So next, move on to the schedules of reinforcement screencasts. That's also really important. Thank you for your attention.